Okay, Kendrick Lamar had the internet blowing up on a Tuesday. I don't know if he intended that as well, but you can never put anything past Kendrick in the way he handles business. So, in this video, I'm going to explain why I think Euphoria is a better diss than Push Ups. Now, before I dive into that, I want you to understand that I actually listen to Drake more than I listen to Kendrick Lamar. So, I have YouTube Music, and every year, YouTube Music gives me a recap of the artists I listen to the most. And for the past 3 years, it's been Drake. We'll dive into that in a second. But I'll admit Drake has been my number one artist. But number two has always been Kendrick Lamar. So Drake's been number one, Kendrick Lamar's been number two. And just to share with you, number three on my list, it's been Dom Kennedy. So those are the top three people I listen to the most. Um, Drake number one, Kendrick Lamar number two, and Dom Kennedy number three. But we're talking about battling. We're talking about who won the diss, who had the better record. So I'm going to give you my take. But in order to do that, I had to set the table. So this is me setting the table. One, you have a clash in styles. You have Drake, who has the most number one hits out of anyone. They say he surpassed Michael Jackson with the most number one hits. That is what Drake is. Drake is a hit maker. Drake will make a hit. It's a rap song. He'll make a hit where he's singing and it's very poppy. Drake makes hits, right? You know, kind of reminds me of Brown Sugar, the movie Brown Sugar. We're about the hits. You want to make that real stuff, take you behind the raucous, right? Which, if we're going to take out behind the raucous, we would find someone like Kendrick Lamar. Kendrick Lamar is about realness, speaking the truth, telling the stories of the hood. Kendrick Lamar is where you get the news, where you get what it's like growing up in the slums of Compton and LA, and he's the voice of his people, but he's also the voice of hip hop in those terms. And it's similar to when you had Jay-Z versus Nas in a sense. And I'll get into that. But the point is, Drake prioritizes making hits. Drake is about making hits, and Kendrick is about putting out art. And if you go along with it, then fine. If you understand it, then fine. But if you don't get it, then it just wasn't for you. And he's not concerned with trying to be the number one artist, right? So there's that. Now, the reason why I said they say Drake is number one is because they're saying he surpassed Michael Jackson. But there's a difference between when Michael Jackson was number one and now where Drake's number one. When Michael Jackson was number one, you had to actually go out and purchase albums, which means you had to put dollars towards it. You had to go out and buy the record. So when they say Michael Jackson was platinum, that means 1 million people went out and dished dollars. But now when they say Drake's number one, it's about he's the most streamed. And then you get into streams and how that works, and you got to get into the algorithm. And the algorithm is very important these days because the algorithm determines the next song you're going to hear. Is it random? Is it really generated by your taste in music, or does the algorithm have an agenda? Well, all I can tell you is the algorithm randomly plays Drake for me more than it plays Kendrick. So, although Drake's my number one artist that I listen to, it's because it doesn't matter who I listen to. If I listen to Dave East, immediately after I finish listening to Dave East, the next song they're gonna play is Drake. I didn't ask for Drake. It came on, and I'm more willing to let it rock because I'm like, all right, the song, I mess with the song. I search for Kendrick. I play Kendrick. After Kendrick, the next song that immediately comes on is Drake. So is the algorithm pushing Drake? That's a different discussion for a different day. But the point is, Michael Jackson feels like a bigger star than Drake, feels like his number ones were more impactful because Michael Jackson came up in an era where people actually had to go and search for him. People actually had to go buy his records. People had to wait to listen to him. It was different. You couldn't force Michael Jackson onto the people. The people had to be actively seeking Michael Jackson. So although Drake has more number ones than Michael Jackson, as they will report it to me, Michael Jackson feels like a more iconic star than Drake because of that fact. Now, as I spoke to you, Kendrick Lamar is all about lyrics, um, making art. And so to me, although Drake has more number one hits than Kendrick, Kendrick actually has a classic album, in my opinion. And again, I've been listening to hip hop all my life. I'm from the hip hop culture. Back to the Source days where you dropped the album and you went to the Source to see how many mics the Source gave it. And when you listen to it, you would be like, oh, like it was everyone's dream. If you rap, like I'm gonna make the 5 mic album, I'm gonna make a 5 mic album. And I still remember seeing some albums and like, oh man, they did this album wrong. This album deserved more mics. Um, but I do remember a time that was crazy in the Source when in the hip hop beef between Jay-Z and Nas, where the Blueprint got 5 mics and Nas Stillmatic got 5 mics. And we're talking about two classic albums back to back. Was a great time in hip hop. But to me, Kendrick Lamar's classic album, Good Kid, Mad City, that album is an absolute classic. I mean, it's artwork in its time. It was delivered, and that put Kendrick on the map. Drake doesn't have an album that can touch Good Kid, Mad City. Like he just can't. He doesn't have an album that comes close to that. That album is a certified classic, even with all the hits. And so that's where you have a contrast in styles. And it's important for me to set this table because that's where I'm seeing the difference in terms of where people feel like who had the better disc record, and in terms of why some people are even not even connecting the dots on, K dot. Some people are not connecting the dots and what Kendrick Lamar was saying on the Euphoria disc, which is cool. But again, you have one guy who's about making hits, and you have another guy who's about making art. And there's nothing wrong. I like both. Like I said, I listen to both of them. So I just wanted to set the table on that. Now, in my lifetime, of course, they're them epic battles where they go way back to a time where I didn't know what hip hop was, and I'm talking about because I wasn't born yet. But in my lifetime, the epic battles that I heard were LL Cool J versus Cannabis, right? And so, LL Cool J won with the "Can I Bust?" Yes, you can. Ask Cannabis, he ain't understanding this because 99% of his fans don't exist, right? Where he basically crushed Cannabis. Then you had Jada Kiss versus Beanie Siegel, which was another really dope battle. And I remember the beat that Jada Kiss chose to respond to Benny Siegel on, and Benny Siegel had that very long diss where he was going, but it was dope. And then you have Jay-Z and Nas, and that was another dope battle. Very similar to this battle that's taking place right now, in the sense that Jay-Z was more about the hits, making hits, more commercial success. Although Nas was about making classic albums, and Nas, when he put out albums, they were projects, they were masterpieces, they were there. It was its own type of thing. Like Nas wasn't trying to ride a wave; he was creating the wave. So it was something different. And people always said this: Nas didn't always rap over the best beats. Like Jay-Z always had like the bangers. You put him. Nas sometimes the beat selection would be like, why would he pick this beat? Like I don't get it. But the bars are fire. So you had that. I don't Jay-Z and Tupac and Biggie. There was a beef, but there was hit 'em up, and some people say who shot you. Although Biggie says Who Shot Ya wasn't directed at Tupac, but there wasn't actual diss records you can compare like this. So although that is a well-known beef, so to speak, we're not comparing diss records because they didn't have it like this, where they had it out kind of, because Cannabis had second round knockout. LL Cool J came out with Can I Bust? Jada Kiss and Beanie Siegel had records that you can compare and contrast that were made to clash with each other. We don't have that with Tupac and Biggie. So that's why I include them in this. But with Jay-Z and Nas, you had that. You had Super Ugly, Ether, and even the verse that that Jay-Z gave in the track on the Blueprint. So yes, now we get to Drake versus Kendrick. I'm going to explain to you why I believe that Kendrick record Euphoria is better. So here we go. Battle rap when I was coming up was a very personal thing. It was when I was younger, battle rap was you rap, I rap. I don't like you, you don't like me. So we see each other, we battle. It's a freestyle battle, right? And so you really had to freestyle and it really had to be personal, right? And if you were spitting written, that was frowned upon. So if you even spit something and started flowing a certain way and people determined that you were spitting written, you automatically lost. It was like, nah, bro, you can't spit written. This is raw and uncut. This is where hip hop was. It's off the top. You versus him off the top. Like we don't want to hear none of that pre-written. We want to hear what you guys say about him. He's going to respond what he got to say about you, and that was it. So written was frowned upon, and it had to be personal, right? Unless it was a diss track and someone dissed you on a track, so then you make another track back, and it was just like that. You can keep doing it through the tracks. But in terms of like face to face, it had to be off the top. You couldn't be spitting written. But I noticed that even that changed. And battle rap culture became dudes spitting writtens and acting like they were freestyling. And I call it algorithm rap. Because basically what they do is they think of the best bars that they can say just in terms of bars, and then they can spit them at anyone. And then they recycle them in numerous battles that they go around battling people, just trying to spit the most clever bars and not necessarily personalizing the bars. The bars aren't personal. The bars aren't directed at the person. They could say this bar to anyone, and they do. Like you would hear if you actually follow the scene and you will notice that this battle rapper says the same exact verse to 3 different people to beat them. And it's fine because it's algorithm. It's algorithm battles. It's about who can put together the best bars. It's not necessarily personal, right? And the reason why that matters to me is because in this battle between Drake and Kendrick Lamar, I feel like a lot of what Drake did in push-ups was algorithm rap. Like he said a lot of bars towards Kendrick that he can say to anyone who was short. He said a lot of bars towards Kendrick that he can say to any artist who hasn't been in the game as long as him and who hasn't reached the status that he's reached in terms of commercial success. All his bars were kind of algorithm rap. It's like I said, like he can take these bars and spit them at anyone who's short. He can take these bars and spit them at anyone who he has more commercial success than. It wasn't really like he directed stuff at Kendrick that you would say, oh, wow, like that was suited towards Kendrick. That was personalized. That like talking about someone's girl and all that's old as time. That's what people do. That's hip hop. Talking about someone's girl, whatever. I've even seen it in hip hop now where like in the battles, they take a picture of someone like, and this is to me, all that's corny. But Drake had some bars. I'll give it to him. He says some fly stuff. But again, it was more like he could have said it at anyone. The difference with Kendrick's Euphoria was you can tell that it was designed strictly for Drake. Everything he said was aimed at Drake. Everything he said was personalized towards Drake. Everything he said was to get under Drake's skin. It wasn't some like Drake song, like push-ups. You can play it in the gym while you're running on the treadmill. You can play it, that's the difference. Kendrick's song isn't about that. Kendrick's song is about a lyrical thrashing of this one particular person. And that's the difference to me. And that's what makes Euphoria a better record because you got to break down the bars. And another thing is, right, it's one thing to spoon feed people the bars. And this is another thing that you had to consider when you battled back in the days. You can try to be really clever. You can try to say some hard metaphors, but in a battle rap, it has to be simple enough that people can hear it, digest it quickly, and react like, oh, when you spit stuff that people have to stop and think about, listen to it again, try to figure it out, you're not going to win instantly. because some people don't have the ability to do that. Some people, and that's the type of person that Kendrick Lamar is. Well, I'm someone who can understand the bars as soon as I hear them, or I'm someone who can hear a bar and be like, okay, I didn't catch that, but there was a meaning to that. And then go look it up and actually find a meaning and be like, oh wow, that was crazy. Where some people, if they don't catch the meaning, they just think it was just some random bar. It flew over their head. Um, so I say all that to say, to me, Euphoria is a better diss track than Push Ups because one, it's from my generation. What we want to hear the bars. We want to hear your bars against this person. We want it personal. We want it to be you firing a shot at him, not you firing random shots that could possibly hit this person, could possibly hit that person, could possibly no. We want it tailor made towards the person you dissing. That's what we want, right? And when you say like you're spitting written in a freestyle back in the days, the other thing with Drake is there's a lot of ghost writing allegations with Drake, right? And that's what makes the Kendrick Lamar's AI. And then he had that AI diss, right? The artificial intelligence diss, where when he brought in the movie artificial intelligence, you know, in Sixth Sense with the way he did it. Now, some people are like, "Oh, it was a different guy," but he did that intentionally too because of the pastor with the cult like following. But again, I'm not here to break down the bars. You heard the song, you can break down the bars yourself. The point is, in terms of lyricism, in terms of personalizing meaning, this was custom made for you. Like, this was custom made for Drake. This was sent to Drake. Like, Drake's bars could have been at anyone who's 5'7" and didn't have the commercial success. And then he just decided, like, nah, this was strictly for Drake. And like I said, I like Drake. I listen to Drake more than I listen to Kendrick, according to YouTube Music, which again, I don't have a problem with that. But I just know that Drake's song randomly comes on next a lot with the algorithm. So I'm just pointing that out as well. So, anyways, to sum this up, and thank you for listening. And you can give me your opinion on who you think won. I think Kendrick won because I think he had better lyrics. I think that it was more custom made and tailor made for Drake. Like, I know he wrote this specifically for Drake. I know he was going after Drake. His bars were strictly towards Drake, and lyrically, Kendrick, I think, did a better job because I listened to them both immediately after the other, and I know that Kendrick's lyrics were better. Now, if you're one who, again, remember, Drake's about the hits. If you're one who wants to be able to run and listen to the song and do all that to the diss track, you can do that. I understand that too. That's how LL Cool J got Cannabis. It was LL Cool J had the better lyrics to me, but he also had the joint where you can just ride in a car and listen to that too. There are all types of ways to win a battle, but in my opinion, Euphoria was a better diss than Push Ups. We'll see what happens if they have another round, but that's my take on that for now. Let me know what you think in the comment section. Like, share, subscribe. I'm out. Peace.